So testo 570s, what we're going to look at is talking about initially a little bit about Testo as a company, a little bit of background about why we think the move toward digital manifolds is the smart move, moving away from analog to digital. We'll introduce you then to the new Testo 570s in a little bit of technical detail, talk about some of its key features and benefits. We'll also cover a little bit about the other products from Testo for the refrigeration, air conditioning and heat pump sector regarding manifolds and ancillary products, and just a little short summary at the end. So just in case you're not familiar with the word or brand Testo, we've been around over 60 years. It's actually our 40th anniversary, 40th year anniversary in the UK this year. We've been providing measurement solutions for many years, in a lot of cases for some of the most demanding target groups and applications. We're heavily involved, for example, in products that manage and monitor production within pharmaceutical and food industry, as well as our more well-known wide range of products for the HVACR sector. The factory's based down in the Black Forest region in Germany. All our R&D and product management and manufacturing and design, it's all based there. And so we're very, very proud of our heritage of being one of Europe's leading suppliers of test measurement equipment. So why digital manifolds? Why manifolds just generally? Obviously, here we're talking about devices that are typically being used by the refrigeration, air conditioning, heat pump sector. And if you've got a little bit of background knowledge, but we'll just cover this anyway, we're talking here about why we're monitoring the vapor compression cycle in these sorts of systems. And these systems really to get an understanding of how they're operating from an efficiency and setup point of view. What we're looking at key is the operating pressure on the low side and the high side of the system, so either side of the compressor. And depending on these pressures and the refrigerant used, we can then use pressure and temperature tables to give us the corresponding saturation temperatures within the evaporator and condenser. So primarily, this is what an analog gauge set is always doing. It's looking at these pressures and then having to either cross-read over the dials or use a pressure and temperature table to get the temperatures. Additionally to that, what typically engineers are looking for is, as well as the theoretical saturation temperatures, we're looking at actually the real temperatures coming out of the evaporator and condenser, and being able to use those to then do the calculation about the amount of superheating or subcooling that's going on within the system. So it's really this combination of monitoring temperatures and pressures all simultaneously that the manifolds are being used for. So for many, many years, the analog gauge set has really been the go-to for refrigeration, air conditioning, heat pump engineers. But compared to digital, they really do have some major disadvantages. Around those disadvantages, typically they're generally of a fairly low accuracy from a pressure and temperature point of view. They're often specific to a set of refrigerants, so the actual temperature scaling within the dial will be specific to one or two refrigerants, and they can't obviously display any actual temperatures. For that, you're going to need another device such as a differential thermometer. And if you're working with various refrigerants, as refrigerants change, you're going to need to have access to the pressure and temperature lookup tables as well. And it's this combination of having to do quite a lot of manual sort of reading of dials, reading of ancillary instruments and charts. This is where the move to digital really makes things so much simpler, because a lot of this is shown in a completely different way, but a much more easily accessible way for the engineer. So some of the key benefits that digital manifolds generally will offer against analog gauges is that much higher accuracy and a much faster speed of measurement. And obviously nowadays, when we're talking about workflow, if your workflow can be sped up, you potentially are not going to be on site so long, and therefore there's cost savings involved. You've got multiple refrigerants stored in the digital devices. So, for example, most of the Testo manifolds come as standard. They've got around 100 refrigerants stored in there. Now, the other side of this ability to store refrigerants is the future-proofness of a digital manifold. As new refrigerants come out, and we're all aware that the refrigeration market is changing and ever evolving with moves towards lower GWP refrigerants. As new refrigerants come on the market, those refrigerant tables can be easily updated and added into the instrument. There's no way that the instrument becomes basically obsolete because it can't work with those refrigerants. You've also got the ability for the device to connect to accessory probes, so we can give you the temperature readings that you would normally get from a separate differential thermometer, and the instrument will also directly calculate your superheat and subcool values and display them in real time. But outside of those functions that the device is offering, which is replacing an analog gauge set, the digital manifolds offer many more test functions. So, for example, you've got within the devices a temperature compensated pressure test function. So when you're using your nitrogen pressure test on a system to strength test it, this device, you can switch it into a test mode for the pressure test, and it will very clearly show you your start pressure, end pressure, length of run of the pressure test. You've also got the vacuum measurement mode, so the devices can work in conjunction with a separate sensor to measure vacuum to a very high level of accuracy. And there's compressor discharge line test functions. There's many other test functions within these devices. They're not just a replacement purely for the analog gauge set from a low pressure and high pressure perspective. And also the move to digital, it provides this much simpler workflow and the digital reporting aspect. These devices link to our Testo Smart app. So with that, you get a second screen mode. So you can actually have the instrument connected to a system and be up to 100 meters away with a smartphone and see the visibility of what's going on at the instrument. But also when you get to the end of your testing, the readings are documented within the app, and you can then provide a very concise report to the client to show these were the readings that were taken, digital, date stamped, time stamped. It's real proof that obviously the work was completed. So there's many benefits of this move to digital generally from an analog manifold. And one of the key things is this way the information is displayed. You know, compared to digital, an analog manifold, a digital manifold provides the information in a much simpler to understand way. At the top of the instrument, we've got very much like a traditional set of gauges. You've got the low pressure and high pressure side of the gauge with your pressures displayed and your saturation temperatures. You've then got two temperature readings typically coming in from a couple of Bluetooth pipe clamp probes, and these are showing you your T1 and T2 temperature, so your temperature on the outlet of the evaporator and obviously the temperature on the outlet of the condenser. And then the instrument can actually look at those readings, compare them to the saturation, and obviously show you in real time the superheating and subcooling values. So very, very simple to see all the information you need to know about the system on one screen. There's no jumping between screens. It's all in clear view on one single screen. Refrigerants are easily accessed. A single button on the device gets you into the refrigerants library, and you can just use a drop down to then select the refrigerants you require. You can if there's particular refrigerants you're using commonly, you can put those on the favorite. So it basically always goes to the top of the list for easy access. On the manifolds currently, we've got all the latest refrigerants, including the R32 and also the increasingly popular hydrocarbon-based refrigerants such as R290, which we're seeing in the heat pump market. One other thing, particularly with the 570s as well, the higher accuracy of the 570s is particularly relevant where we're working on R290 based systems where typically the pressures, the operating pressures in the system will be much lower. So you need that level of accuracy to get you a much higher measurement accuracy generally. The other manifolds typically are 0.5% full scale accuracy. The 570s has this slightly higher accuracy of 0.25% of full scale. And so it makes it ideal for working on R290. And as outlined, the digital manifolds offer much more functionality than just this replacement as an analog gauge. So you get the screen for a traditional replacement for an analog gauge, but there are screens for the pressure test on the system. Evacuation, the screen changes slightly. So rather than having a gauge mimic, you actually have a graph so you can see the decay of the vacuum as it's being pulled down and then it's stabilizing. There's compressor test function where you've got discharge line temperature as an extra temperature measurement, target superheat, and you could even use the device just as a basic replacement for a differential thermometer with a two temperature probes and a delta value. So within the device, you have a menu structure where you can easily access all these different tests within the one device. So there we've outlined some of the real benefits of going to digital generally. What we're going to now look at in a bit more detail is the testo 570s individually. It's part of our range of manifolds, which I'll also talk about a little bit later. But looking at the 570s in particular, this is now sitting as the flagship in our range. So this is our manifold with the most functionality and features currently within our range of products. So the 570s really builds on the background of our 55X series of manifolds, as we call them. These were released initially about 2 years ago, and it brought to the market a complete update and refresh for the testo digital manifolds. So the 570s is a 4-port device. So it has your low pressure port, your high pressure port. There's also a port for adding refrigerant to charge into the system. And there's also a larger connection if you want to evacuate or vacuum the system through the manifold. Although that actually isn't fully required, because with the Bluetooth vacuum probes that we now have available, you can simply actually have the Bluetooth vacuum probe connected to the system via a T-piece typically. The manifold actually then needs no connections. The vacuum reading is just sent across, and the device purely, the 570s manifold purely becomes a display unit in that mode. And so the 570 can connect to various other testo devices using the Bluetooth comms. So this will typically be things like the temperature clamp probes, but we can also connect other devices, which we'll talk about. And the device also works in conjunction with our recently updated smart app, and that basically allows this second screen display, so you can actually get just a mirror of what is actually seen on the instrument directly on your smartphone or tablet. And subsequently, this also allows your easy on-site documentation and reporting of readings. So this 570 is an evolution of our current manifold range, and with the 55X range, we introduced a new style of design and construction. Very, very robust IP54 performance, so it could be used in outdoor conditions with rain, spray, water spray on the device. Very sturdy hook to hang the device when on site. One of the key differences with the 570s against our other products, though, is the fact that it's a device that has both an integral lithium-ion rechargeable battery, but also has this option of actually running it off some AA auxiliary batteries to lengthen the battery runtime. And if you have both the lithium ion fully charged and the 3 AA batteries installed, we actually offer a class leading performance of 360 hours continuous use. You can also power the device long term via the USB-C connector. And the reason we've got this long battery life and the option of USB-C direct power is because the 570s is the first manifold we've got in our range that will allow on-site data logging. So where you're needing to leave it on site for an extended period of time, this is why we've got the ability for the instrument to actually run long-term on batteries or a external power device. So one of the key USPs of the 570s is compared to the other manifolds in our range, it's the only device that's got this ability to data log on site. So if maybe you have a system that has some sort of transient fault where you don't want to be waiting around hours looking at a screen to try and track what's going on, you can leave the 570s connected up to the system and then effectively set up a data logging routine that can run up to 72 hours. You have a adjustable cycle on that, so you can sample a minimum of 1 second intervals up to 60-second intervals, and you can be looking at your temperatures and pressures and also compressor currents. And then the idea is you set the device running, you can maybe go off and do some other work, leaves you much more flexible to then come back, stop the data logging sequence, harvest the data, and then using the app, you can allow a smart search where what it will try and do is, rather than have to plow through hours and hours of data, it only shows you what it considers are anomalies outside of usual operating conditions. So the idea is you can then hone in on maybe particular issues, saving time on reviewing lots and lots of data. But the data logging is set up with the smart app, so the memory in the device is actually doing the logging, but then the device will transfer that logged data Bluetooth across to the smart app on your phone for you then to review it. One of the other aspects of the 570s is we've enhanced the Bluetooth capability so that it will allow direct connection to our testo 570-3 clamp meter. So this also now allows very simple parallel measurement of electrical parameters alongside your pressure and temperature readings. So a typical application here would be something like compressor current and being able to measure the compressor current as well as the pressure and temperatures and see how the relationship is working or whether it's actually a compressor fault that is causing the issues. So the 770-3 can provide AC and DC current measurement via its fairly innovative clamp jaw. It's a parallel jaw, means you can get into much tighter cabling rather than a jaw that hinges sideways. The device is also a fully featured multimeter, so via the jack connections at the bottom, you can use test leads to have it as a voltmeter for AC and DC use, and also you can do capacitance, resistance testing, continuity testing, and quite uniquely, you can also perform both a simultaneous current and voltage measurement, and actually the device will then give you power measurement as well. So it's a really competent device for doing electrical testing around the systems as well. And this ability to actually get this information into the manifold and into the data logging sequence, it really adds something to the whole package of being able to monitor a refrigeration, air conditioning or heat pump system. So with the launch of the testo 570s, we've got 4 options available for purchase. We'll be doing a 570s manifold only. The idea behind this is we have a great existing database and user base of people who have got the testo manifolds and will already have the Bluetooth probes. And maybe what this allows them to do is actually just upgrade the manifold itself. So if they particularly want a manifold with data logging, they can actually use their existing probes in conjunction with just the manifold. For people who are looking to purchase a complete kit, we have 3 kit options. So the first is the 570s Smart Kit, where the manifold is bundled with the 552i vac probe and 2 of our 115i clamp Bluetooth clamp thermometers, all in a carry case. Then we also have a kit which includes a set of 4 hoses. And then right at the top of the range, we actually have a kit which does include the 770 clamp meter as well. And so 770 is available as a separate item, just like all the Bluetooth probes are also available as separate items as well within our range. But depending on what your requirement is, we've got these 4 kits that will be available for you to purchase the 570s. Alongside the 570s manifold, and something that's designed to work with all the other testo manifolds, is our new 560i refrigerant scales. These are a fairly recent addition to our range, but again, it's broadening this portfolio of products we have for this market. So with this device, you can either use it with the manifolds, and it will obviously display the weight of the refrigerant on the manifold. Or if you're somebody who's not got a testo manifold, you can actually use these scales directly just with the app as well. So you're not tied into just having the ability to use them with the manifold. We actually give you the ability to use just the scales with the phone app. So it may be an application where you've not got a testo manifold, but you'd like to use the scales. You can do so literally just through the app. Also, with the scales, we have an option of just the scales, or you can buy a scales and intelligent valve combination. And with the intelligent valve, what that actually allows you to do is with the manifold or the app, you can actually set a target charge weight or a target superheat value. An intelligent valve will actually allow the refrigerant to flow into the system to achieve a target weight or a target superheat. So it automates the actual charging process. So you have the ability to basically dictate what the charge weight that needs to be added into the system or a target superheat value. The intelligent valve is basically controlled again via Bluetooth from the manifold or the app, and it effectively will automate the process of adding refrigerant into the system to obtain that charge weight or target superheat. And the free smart app that works alongside the manifolds and the products, we've recently updated this as a app. It's available on either Android or iOS for Apple operating systems, freely available via both the app stores. second screen mode with the manifolds, but the other devices also, if you want to use them individually at some point, you can use the 770 clamp meter, for example, with the smart app, and also the 552 vac probe or the temperature probes. So you've got the ability to use them as a complete system or individually if you just need a very, very fast and quick measurement. And the smart app has various screens depending on your use. If you've got it connected to the manifold and it's in second screen mode, whenever you change the measurement mode on the manifold, it will automatically reflect that within the app because the manifold is always the master device. But you've got screens for your traditional manifold view, high side and low side. You can trend up to 4 variables, so you can actually have a trending view, a bit like a data logging, so it's much more graphic. You've got the pressure leak test, the evacuation mode. You've got the ability to link, say, to the 560 scales and the automatic charging. And also all your refrigerant lists can also be accessed through the app as well. And as mentioned earlier, the 570s really sits now at the top of the tree within our manifolds range. So underneath the 570s, we have the existing 55X series manifolds we've had available since launch. Just give you a little bit of an overview on those. So we have the 557s, so it's a 4-way valve block design. So this is effectively the same as the 570s, but doesn't have the data logging, doesn't have the internal lithium-ion battery. But in the rest of the functionality, it's exactly the same. We do kits that are available with and without hoses, for example. The 557 is always supplied as a kit with the 552i vacuum probe. So you've got this integrated high accuracy vacuum measurement straight out of the box. We also do the 550s, which is just a 2-way manifold design. Again, it's compatible with the same probes. There's smart kits available. The 550s doesn't come as standard with the 552i vac gauge, but if you want to add it in at any point, you literally just need to purchase a 552i and it will connect via Bluetooth. It's just not supplied as part of the initial kit. And then at our entry point, we have the testo 550i, which is our really innovative smart block. So the idea here is you've got a 2-way manifold design, but without the screen. So basically, the way this device works is directly via the app. So the app becomes your screen. But what it does offer is a really good entry price point into the world of digital manifolds. This starts at £149, so you can see it's not that far off maybe the cost of a fairly decent analog gauge set, but it gives you all the benefits at a much lower price point. And again, we've got available as a basic manifold only option or a smart kit where it comes bundled with the testo 115i Bluetooth clamp probes for your T1, T2 and your superheat and subcool calculation. But from the 550i right through to the 570s, we now have a wide range of manifolds available for refrigeration, air conditioning, and heat pump engineers. Obviously, we've spoken about the 770-3 clamp meter. Again, really good product as a general purpose HVAC clamp meter. Offers a wide range of options for electrical testing, the Bluetooth link to our app, and also the new testo 570s manifold as well. So really trying to wrap this all up into a conclusion, testo, we believe, now has one of the most comprehensive range of digital manifolds on the market for this sector. We've got the established brand quality and reliability of testo, the wide range of complementary products, and it's the support for the testo product as well as the testo UK office directly. We've got a very wide dealer network. We've got available, for example, on our testo YouTube site, we have video guides how to use them, downloads from our website. So the products effectively are very well backed up both via Testo Direct and our very established dealer network in the UK. Currently, we're offering a campaign that's running. So any of the manifold kits we've spoken about here, they actually come at the moment with a set of 3 set of water pump pliers, which are worth around £50 in value. So say if you are looking to purchase a kit at the moment, it's a great time because you get a bit of a freebie with those as well. So that's really wrapped up the webinar for today on the testo 570s. So I'll leave the chat open a moment just to see if there's any particular messages. Don't think we've had any messages through the presentation itself. No, it doesn't look like we've got anything coming through. If you've got any questions on the devices, obviously you can contact us through our website or through our main office phone number. We have a help desk and people on the phone to guide you through the product range if you've got any questions. But in that case, if there's no questions, I'll conclude this now. Thank you very much for taking part in today's webinar, and keep an eye out for some more testo webinars coming in the future. Thank you very much.